Hey, it's Darren with Arbitrage Trade. It is time for Deep Dive with none other than Daniel Hopwood, who is the guy hanging out at the bottom right corner. How you doing, Daniel?
Good, Darren. How you doing?
Awesome. I just wore a necklace just for you. See, I'm gonna call it out before you do. So that's what you
You
do.
can
You
go.
catch
You
me
can
before they
go
do.
watch after the bell and listen to us roast Darren for his necklace.
Exactly. That was not meant to be a promotional thing. All right, let's go on to what your blog is this week, which is the Fear and Greed Index. And, I already knew about that. I did not know that it was brought up by CNN, I think is what you'll tell us here in a minute. But go ahead and tell us, what is the Fear and Greed Index? It's just a meter, right? Just one of these guys.
Yeah, which is funny, Darren, is that you said like, oh, you should write a blog about this. I was like, oh, okay. Never actually like really looked into it other than I heard about it. And
Right.
I was actually shocked when I found out it took actual like technical analysis input into it. I just thought it was some like BS. CNN was like, oh, people seem kind of fearful right now of
Yeah.
stocks. I was like, wow, this actually has some like math behind it potentially.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
it's a narrative tool, right? But it's not.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
really
right. I thought it was just like something they completely just like, it seems about this right now. But so the Fear and Greed Index was created by CNN Business as a way to kind of gauge where, market sentiment is, but I guess, using some actual like technical aspects behind the scenes. So it's a
7 of them.
scale of L7. And so you goes from 0 to 100, 0 being extreme fear, 100 being extreme greed. And so you can really think of it as, when Warren Buffett says when there's blood in the streets, right? That would be extreme fear, right? When everyone's panicking, the fear gauge is, below 20. That's potentially your contrarian indicator, time to buy, right? Now on the other end, you have extreme greed, which is, the euphoria, things are really overbought. PE multiples are at 22% like they are right now. And, that's potentially the time, I don't want to say to sell, but to maybe take a little off the top, secure some of those gains. So, while often, people look at these things, they can think of like, oh, fearful, like greedy, like, people often fall into those categories and don't act in the way that they should during those times.
Yeah, so, get a little more into detail about it. Like I said, there's 7 indicators that it actually uses, which before you looked into it, you didn't know that. So, actual stuff, math. So
Yeah,
math
yeah.
for
So
us,
they use
Daniel.
math behind this. It's not just like some news BS. So first one is they look at stock price momentum. So is it above or below its 125-day moving average to see, is it running hot or cold? 125 days, decently long, right? So it does, show kind of like a longer term gauge of how people feel. Stock price strength. So how many stocks are making 52-week highs versus lows? You also have stock price breadth. So that's tracking the volume of advancing versus declining stocks. Are more advancing stocks getting more volume versus declining ones?
And
Kind of
that
shows
breadth
you
one is
which
what I
way.
hear a lot. They talk about stock market breadth a lot on CNBC. Go ahead.
Yep. And then put call options. So you're kind of seeing if puts are higher than calls, people are hedging, right? They're betting to the downside. Calls are higher, they're speculating on more upside. The next is market volatility. So more or less is the VIX high or low. You have safe haven demand. So where are people putting their money? So are they putting it in stocks? Are they putting it in bonds? Bonds are the risk assets versus safety assets. And then also what's the demand for junk bond? So do times seem good enough that they're willing to stomach the risk for the high return of junk bonds, or are times seeing like a lot of those bonds are going to potentially default, so they don't even want to touch them?
Yeah, like the financial crisis. Um,
Yep.
so it's kind of like the next little section here is what the index is telling you. So we're using that 80-20 rule, and like we do for overbought versus oversold conditions, we use that. What is it, the RSI? We use that
Hmm.
to judge whether something is overbought or oversold. So here is another tool, this greed index. And like you've always said, by the way, is you can't use one indicator. You can't just use the lipstick indicator and then, hey, that means everything is exactly what it's saying. You have to use a combination of a lot of different ones. And I think this is just yet another that you use that's a quick, easy look because it's just doing this
Hmm.
red or green. But as we break it down, what's the 80-20?
Yeah, so like I said before, it goes from 0 to 100.
Okay.
So anything below, you can kind of actually think of this as a traditional RSI indicator, right? Like
Right.
traditional RSI is below 30 is oversold, above 70 is overbought, and this is kind of the same where it's above 80 is greed heavy, right? So you can think of markets frothy, potentially a little overbought. And when it goes below 20, fear is in control, probably a little oversold. People are panicking a bit too much. And, like I said before, starts to get below 20, potentially look at stocks that you might want to buy that for a good entry of a low price. Or, often when things are that low, you can use something like the arbitrage bands for, when it gets that low, start finding the stocks you want and wait for the right setup using our various indicators. And if it goes above 80, maybe look at taking a little bit off the top of any profitable trades you do have, and make sure you secure some of that.
Cool, cool. Your next section was about how people use it, and we've already hit pretty much the first two for risk management and contrarian timing. Emotional check-in's kind of fun. I mean, it's like don't go crazy with what you see. Kind of use it as another validator, right? And the confirmation tool too. So those kind of go
But
together.
yeah, I mean, most investors and traders, their biggest enemy is themselves and their emotions, right?
Yep,
It's like you
yep.
get you get caught in a trade, you don't want to sell, you're in it, you're winning, you think it's going to go higher, and it can be a good thing to remember. It's like the easy way to think is like, oh, like you know the the index is at 80, like things are going to keep going up. When you have to invert it and go, oh, I bought this when the index was at 30, index is at 80 now, I should probably think about securing some of these gains, using an option strategy like collaring to make sure that you can kind of lock in the gains you had at the current level. So a lot of different strategies, but definitely use it as a tool to, whether it's emotional check-in or a confirming tool of which way, kind of more of an inverse confirming tool, really. Because if things are low, you might want to buy. If things are high, you might want to sell. But, it just gives you a general market breadth, as Darren loves, to see where things are and maybe what you should be doing.
Yep. I think that pretty much wraps it up. I mean, it's just basically yet another tool, which is comprised of 7 tools. So a quick glance, and then it's an emotional check and a confirmation, both in just one simple little meter. So, and if you've never seen it, I believe it's what, green on the left side and red on the right side, um, because the greed greed is good according to this meter. So it's green. You're going greed is money, which is I guess I do it the right way. You're looking at it here. It's the opposite when you're on a camera. So green is this way, and it's extreme greed, and then it goes back this way to fear. Oh my goodness, we're fear, 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 and then extreme fear here. So that's the way that works. So it's a quick glance to either confirm or make you reevaluate what your emotion is feeling at that time. I think that's the way we'll wrap it up.
Mm-hmm.
And I do appreciate it again. Look forward to seeing what else you bring and see how many other indicators are even out there, because there's a ton. For every analyst, there's
Oh
another
yeah,
indicator.
no shortage as time goes on.
That's right. That's right. All right. Thanks, Daniel. See you next week.
Talk to you then, Darren.